Hello and welcome to What's Next. It's the Indy NXT Road Series here from Mexico City, the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, in its Grand Prix configuration that has played host to the Mexican Grand Prix in recent years, starting in 2016. This is quite an interesting track, kind of known for similar reasons as Fuji was last week with the very long front straightaway, but perhaps most notably the elevation of this track, particularly benefiting these turbo cars that we have here in the Dallara IL-15 Indy NXT machine. Sophie, what are we in for here from Mexico?
Well, as you said, Jacob, iRacing models the higher elevation. And so what you'll see here is everyone will probably be running higher downforce than what you would normally run for a track with a straightaway this long. Because ultimately those wings are not as effective as they could be in the thinner air. Another thing that Mexico is known for besides the elevation is the track cuts. The IR-18s, the big cars, they came here earlier in the season, and no one look at the fastest lap that I set during that race. I definitely was being a little cheeky with some of those track limits, Jacob.
Yeah, that's certainly something we'll take close eye on, particularly through kind of the S section of the track as we work our way into qualifying here now. We've got the likes of some notable drivers here in the field tonight as we're looking a bit from the sky above the iconic stadium section here. We'll get out there with Andre Castro making another appearance in the broadcast. Good to see Andre back here in kind of the iconic Guinness livery he's been sporting. He's currently working on his outlap heading towards that stadium section now. We'll actually hop on board with him as he gets to that section of the course here. Hard right into the stadium into a very tricky left-hander as drivers are kind of reducing their speed to stay tucked in nice and tidy on the inside of the track there and punching to exit this stadium and ultimately working around what remains of that iconic Peraltada corner, working their way onto the front straightaway.
Yeah, one of the things with the stadium section is those incredibly high curves. Now, with the IndyCar, you can get away with playing with those too roughly. You can hop over them and use them to square up that final corner better. But I don't know, Jacob. Since you're more experienced both with the track guides and whatnot, can you tell the viewers if they can abuse those curves too in the Indy Lights card?
The Indy NXT machine kind of does the 50-50 beaching we've seen in a number of cases, particularly on those much heavier curves, particularly the one kind of on the left-hand side entering the stadium as we watch Andre Castro aim towards what Jarrett Corey has coined as the square pin here from Mexico City. We'll thank him for that lovely corner name as Andre works his way towards now that S section we were talking about earlier where the track limits are a little bit generous as you see him work all the way to the left, all the way to the right, kind of use it as much of the track as he can. Bit of a moment on that curb there. We'll see if that affects his lap time here at all, but he's very much pushing as you see a bit of a power slide off that last S corner as he'll head towards the stadium here. You kind of get away with the front tires on the curbs here. You'll see him use the right front on that curb there, and you kind of want to stay off of them through the stadium section here as best as you can. You see maybe a bit of contact on either side from the front tires, but other than that, trying to stay off of them as best as possible as you will beach the car, and in a number of instances, if you beach it hard enough, you will come off the curb, get on the power, and shoot yourself into the wall. We saw drivers experience that last week as the USF 2000 Series took on the Mexico City Oval Stadium configuration as Rafael Lippi sets the fastest time so far with a 130.945 for the driver, the number 2 Castro, 1/10 off of that. We'll stay on board with Castro to see if he improves on his second lap here. And we'll see if pull times drop into that 132nd bracket. I kind of thought maybe going into this week, that's kind of where we would see the pointy end of the stick settle. The guide lap we showed off for the guide this week was a 131.505, I believe. So I figured that, you know, the proper professionals here in the likes of Andre Castro might give us a show inside the 130 bracket here in qualifying. We'll see if Castro's able to join Lippi as a driver in that 130 bracket.
Yeah, for sure, Jacob. And it looks like, again, the car might just be a little too low to really take advantage of the curbs the way that you could in the IndyCar. These are all fixed setups, so everyone in this field running the same setup, so they're all in the same boat.
Yeah, I've
really clean entry to the stadium section for Castro there.
Yeah, a bit of a moment in the left-hander there. We'll see if that hurts his time significantly. It does seem... Ooh, he'll go around.
Oh, he spin! Oh, a commentator's curse there, Jacob.
Yeah, we were riding on board, potentially seeing what could have been a pole lap here for Andre Castro. Ultimately, going to have to settle for what his first lap gave him tonight. Currently still sits second ahead of Eduardo Galbinski and Giovanni Blackerby, the podium finisher from Fuji last week. He's qualified fourth right now. We've got the likes of Hamilton Barrero Ruiz back for more. Frisky Frankie Frank Wynn, currently sixth. Reigning Indy NXT Oval Series champion Indy Kirchenbauer in seventh. Andrew Taphorn, David Tuda, Nathan Ray.
Oh, he just goes to P3. Kirchenbauer goes to P3 with the 131.3.
Yeah, solid lap for the Prodigy. He'll move up the order as we continue through qualifying here. About 2 minutes left to go. Number of drivers still let to take time, including the likes of Weston Yoshinobu and Mike Acaro. They'll be looking to get a time in before qualifying concludes here to give themselves the best opportunity to get a solid race start here. As that run down to turn number 1 is going to be very tricky, as it ultimately kind of ends in a chicane, albeit much differently than the ending we saw from Fuji with that hairpin corner to start off the lap.
For sure, Jacob. It's easily an area where there can be chaos on that opening lap, because ultimately it's so wide, it's so inviting, and again, it's one of those things with this braking zone, because of the higher elevation, you're not going to have the downforce that you're expecting, you're not going to have the grip you're expecting, and so it's really easy to miss your braking point, to miss your brake application and lock the tires and have a little smashy. So be interesting to see how everyone handles that turn one, lap 1, but again, another area to look out for trouble for will be the Peraltada on the opening lap. It's really easy to lose the car on exit of that corner on cold tires.
Yeah, the kind of the recipe for disaster that spells quite frequently in this IL-15 is too much throttle too quickly with too much wheel left in the steering rack. And that can send drivers around in a hurry, particularly on those cold tires. We've talked with drivers over the last couple weeks as kind of how they're navigating maybe in-car adjustments to account for that situation. And a lot of drivers have started stiffening up that front roll bar to kind of reduce the amount of give or play that the front end has as they navigate the kind of opening stages of the race and kind of continue to work over the course of the running, maybe with some extra adjustments on the brake bias and the like, to try to get it to a spot where the car's not slipping and sliding quite as much, especially through the slow speed corners where we tend to see that kind of on throttle snap oversteer moments. Getting to the closing stages of qualifying now. We're going to get to the starting lineup here shortly, as we'll get, I believe it's going to be 18 IL-15s ready to take on the Mexico City Grand Prix course here for week number 11 of 12 as we get close to the season finale. We'll kind of go over the point standings if we can as we get to the starting lineup first from Mexico City. And on the pole will be Rafael Lippi with a 1:30.945, the only driver tonight to break into that 1:30 bracket. Alongside him will be Andre Castro in this Guinness livery we've got up on the screen now. He'll roll off second. Indy Kirchenbauer, the Prodigy, will line up third alongside Eduardo Galbinski in the fourth spot. Podium finisher from Fuji, Giovanni Blackerby in this Penske-inspired IL-15 will roll off fifth. Hamilton Barrero Ruiz will roll off sixth ahead of Frisky Frank Wynn. He'll be seventh in the number 4 alongside Andrew Taphorn in the 8th spot. David Tuta and Chris Wetz, regular appearances here in the Indy NXT Road Series. They'll line up 9th and 10th. Nathan Ray will line up 11th alongside David Clennon in the 12th spot. There's Clennon's machine. There, Weston Yoshinobu will be 13th. Lucas Lodato will line up 14th. There's Lodato there. Colin Hill will be 15th. Henry Wang will line up 16th alongside him, with Mike Acaro and Robert J. Campus rounding out the field. I actually got to race Robert from Fuji last week in my path to victory last time out. Not in the broadcast. That was a different race, but I figured I'd toot my own horn while I could here up in the booth. And so let's get the ticker back up on the screen and run through kind of the point standings as they run. You'll note, most notably, the current points leader in Jarrett Corey is absent here tonight. He was putting on a show with his Luke Mansky Racing Esports teammates in the IndyCar Open Series from Sebring in the wet, rounding out their podium effort, or their podium sweep rather, from the very wet Sebring International Raceway. Hamilton Barrero Ruiz is in the field, however. He's second. Frank Wynn, he's currently third in points. Giovanni Blackerby's fourth. Road Atlanta winner Daniel Falkingham currently sits fifth. Reigning series champ Tim Van Grosven rolls in sixth. Luis Sanchez, Caleb Bomer, who we saw do battle with Jarrett Corey from Interlagos, sits eighth. We've got the likes of Frederick Lubis and Takumi Numata in ninth and 10th. Indy Kirchenbauer, Edson Toole, Daniel Gomez, and the like working the rest of the way through the top 25. You see the likes of Robert J. Campus down in 18th, alongside the likes of Lincoln Olson, Andrew Taphorn towards the bottom half of that top 25. And I think we're in for quite a special event here, as there's potentially on the cards a new winner here in Indy NXT Road Series competition, Sophie.
For sure, Jacob. And two things of note. One, please don't mention that race that we just had. I would prefer to forget about what happened at the start of that. And also, look at all of the dust that is being kicked up by these Indy NXT machines. That is a new feature in iRacing, with all of that dust. That's going to make the track extra slippery on these opening laps. All that kind of sepia tone. It's trying to set the camera in sepia tone. It thinks we're in a movie, and we need to set the tone that we're actually in Mexico.
Yeah, certainly interesting to see kind of that dust kick up, particularly in sections of the track where there's not tons of grass to necessarily kick it up from. You know, you kind of see it with maybe a bit of dirt or grass kick up. That opening section, by and large, is asphalt until you get really far over to the inside of it, but we'll certainly see as the track progresses, maybe that dust starts to clear, the tires start to warm up, and you get a bit cleaner of a line. Maybe the speeds start to pick up as the fuel tank lightens, those tires get up to snuff, and the drivers are really able to make the most of those Firestone tires on the IL-15s here from Mexico City. Pace car is working through the S's now. Sophie, what do you got?
Well, I was going to say, Jacob, there isn't that much wind either, but the track has a lot of usage, so the track stayed very rubbered in, but the wind, not so much. And as we saw with the IndyCar race here a couple of weeks ago, if there is a lot of high wind, particularly in the west or east direction, it can really affect lap time. So not sure why there's so much dust all on the track, but the wind shouldn't be much of a factor tonight.
Yeah, kind of a 1 to 2 mile an hour east-southeast wind. Southeast wind kind of hitting us here as the drivers are navigating the stadium section. Pace car will pull off relatively shortly thereafter, as it's a very hard right for that pace car. You'll see it make right about there, maybe a little early. There we go. There it turns off. Field of control of Raphael Lippi. He launches now. Green flag in the air.
Green, green, green.
Yes, and you see him already starting to weave, trying to break the draft. Raphael Lippi ahead of Andre Castro, Indy Kirchenbauer, and Eduardo Galbinski. Galbinski looking around the outside. They are 3 wide into turn number 1, Jacob. Look out.
Yeah, Kirchenbauer to the inside. Galbinski on the outside. Galbinski goes around.
Galbinski's around. Castro's fine. Sorry. Galbinski around, taking the Lewis Hamilton line there. Or, sorry, Max Verstappen line through the grass.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure if contact was made there. But Galbinski will shoot down the order. That'll move Kirchenbauer up to second.
Oh, Kirchenbauer in the wars. Blackerby on his lid.
Kirchenbauer's already hit the pit lane. We're going to have to get another look at that one, I think.
There's no rear wing. And Giovanni is spinning.
Oh, goodness. So here we are with Kirchenbauer's incident. Castro's to the inside of him. Kirchenbauer looks like maybe cuts him off. No, not quite. They just made contact on the exit of the corner, and that'll send Kirchenbauer around in front of Castro. ultimately Castro has to stop. Blackerby makes contact up and over into the air. Frank Wynn's going to skirt on through. You're going to see a couple more cars skirt to the inside here as Blackerby is stuck on his lid. He'll get flipped back over at a point in time, but fortunately a number of stout cars involved in an opening lap collision that's going to shake up this race very, very dramatically.
Yeah, and Frisky Frankie had to slow down, fell down the order. They're currently now in 5th after all of that.
Yeah, let's actually see if we can hop on board with Frank Wynn as he's looking to chase down the likes of David Tuta and Andrew Taphorn ahead of him now. And that's kind of what we were thinking could be the case with the opening couple of corners here, is that a lot of drivers were going to be making as many moves as they could early, because as the draft kind of breaks up and the field starts to spread out a little bit, it's going to be much more difficult to make those moves, and people were just really setting it in there, those opening couple of corners.
Yeah, for sure. There's a lot of really tight braking zones. Andre Castro back in 13th making a move on Colin Hill. Move Castro up to 13th as Henry Wong in the Los Pollos Hermanos car off the track through the square pin now move Castro up to 12th.
Castro will be looking to make an iconic recovery drive that we've seen a number of drivers have to make throughout this season, the likes of Frank Wynn at Watkins Glen. I think we had another one from somebody at Imola. The power drive can play a factor here, and if there's anybody who can do it here tonight, it would be Andre Castro, the winner from Road America, to start off this season. And we're in for a new winner more than likely, given just how far down the order he is. Obviously a long way to go here in the 14-lap event as drivers are starting to work their first lap with push to pass now. Leapy goes purple, 131.1 as we work lap number 3.
Yeah, Rafael Leapy has extended a almost 5-second gap over Hamilton Ruiz. The Colombian probably held up by some of that opening lap chaos, given the incident between Kirchenbauer, Castro, and obviously Eduardo Galbinski. But Andrew Taphorn is just a second behind. Guerrero Luis locks up the inside tire as they enter turn 4.
Yeah, we saw Castro make the move on David Clennon for the 11th spot. That'll move him up one more as he starts to work his way to the bottom portion of the top 10. We'll hop back up to that battle for 3rd through 5th as Taphorn leads Tuta and Wynn. Guerrero Ruiz is just up the road from these cars, about a second and change. The gap there, we'll get those gaps up on the screen to see kind of where those battles are developing for everybody watching at home. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Quite an action-packed first couple of laps here, but we're starting to settle into a rhythm as Rafael Leapy has stretched out to a 5-second lead. We'll see if he's able to continue to do that over the course of the running here tonight.
Yeah, it's Andre Castro looking for a bold maneuver on the inside of that left-hander in the stadium section on Eduardo Galbinski. Makes it stick. Move Castro up into 10th place. Won't have long to be on the rear wing of Weston Yoshinobu in the number 16 car.
Yeah, we're watching the battle for 3rd work their way down towards turn number 1. If anybody's going to make a move here, it'll be Frisky Frankie looking on Tuta, but he stays in line for now. We'll hop back to Castro, who runs in 10th. He's looking on Weston Yoshinobu for the 9th spot on the inside now. He's lunging for it. Uses all the curb on the left side there to make the move on Yoshinobu. Move Castro up to 9th. He's on a hard charge here through the field. He's multiple seconds a lap faster than a lot of the cars around him now. So we'll see if he's able to work his way well up the field in the first couple laps here.
Yeah, and Frisky Frank DeWin in the 5th spot has been all over the back of David Scuda. Obviously, they are in that scrap for the final spot on the podium with Andrew Taphorn, David Tuta, and Frank DeWin. Cover those 3 cars under a blanket. Hamilton Barrera Ruiz is now 2 seconds up the road from them, and then it's almost 9 seconds up from Taphorn to Rafael Leapy.
Yeah, Leapy slowly stretching his legs lap over lap. He's got nothing to really contest with behind him. That gives him the opportunity to kind of use his push to pass, use his car, put it exactly where he wants it. As Nathan Ray's starting to fall down the order. maybe a bit of a moment through the stadium section for him. We'll see what happens with the driver, the number 5 here. Yeah, around it looks like around he'll go. We'll watch his entry to the stadium section here. Working towards that left-hander now. He's going to get onto the brakes, turn in. He's going to start working his way. Oh, and I think he just gets into the power a little too quickly there, and around his machine will go, and that'll drop him a number of spots down the order, and he'll be working his way from 11th now, work his way back to where he was running before. Andre Castro already up to 7th. He capitalized big time that last time by. He'll be looking to hunt down Lucas Lodato in the 6th spot.
Yeah, and that mistake that you saw there from Nathan Ray, so easy to do because, again, these, like with the IndyCar, these cars are very rear heavy, and so it's so easy if you're a little bit too aggressive, say on the brake, on turn in, and then correspondingly a little too aggressive with the loud pedal. It's so easy to just over-rotate the car, and once it's kind of going in these low-speed corners, it's really hard to stop it.
Yeah, that's why we talk time and time again of trying to get that wheel as unfurled as possible and kind of that progressive transition into the throttle, as drivers aren't able to adjust throttle maps in these machines like you are in the IndyCar, even on fixed setups. So it is a bit of a challenge to kind of navigate the default throttle maps. We see a bit of moment for Lodato through that same corner that we saw Rea go around last time by. He's under fire from Andre Castro, still mounting his very aggressive charge through the field. He'll be working on Lodato down the front stretch.
Yeah, and I don't think Lucas Lodato is going to be putting up much of a fight. I think he looks and sees what Andre has done and is probably just going to let the Guinness machine go here into turn number 1. In fact, that's exactly what you see. Lets Castro have it, lets him get back to the outside to not even lose much time as the number 1 machine continues on his march up the field.
That'll move Castro up to 6th. He'll have about 4 seconds to make up to the likes of Taphorn, Tuta, and Wynn ahead. They're battling for the final step on the podium, and that battle has remained basically spread under a 1-second blanket the entirety of this race so far, as Taphorn leads it from Tuta and Wynn. They're going to navigate the S section, and we'll see if anybody can maybe capitalize heading off towards the stadium.
For sure. It looks like that just because of the fact that David Tuta is getting the draft up Andrew Taphorn, it really prevents Frank the Win from getting much of a run. Obviously, they have the push to pass, but again, that's just not necessarily going to be the most surefire bet, as the other driver can just also press push to pass to defend Jacob.
Yeah, that's kind of the battle you play with that button, particularly at a track like this where the bulk of the passing zones come at the end of a rather sizable straightaway. There's a couple here. You've got the likes of, off the final corner down to turn number 1. I believe it's going to be turn 6 to 7 has a sizable straight connecting those two. So there's an opportunity there, and then maybe those runs before you get to the S section being the most opportune times to get on the button around here. As this battle continues to brew, and you can see Andre Castro off in the distance. He closed up about half a second that last time by, so he is gaining time. 130.884 that last time by. The lead of this group in terms of the fastest time was Frank Wynn with a 131.5. So Castro is coming. It's just a matter of when he gets there, maybe not if.
For sure, Jacob, and as we know with the comeback drive I had to do earlier tonight in the IndyCar race, the first couple of positions really easy, but when you start getting up into those higher level positions in the top 10, top 5, that's when everyone's around the same lap time as you. So you really start to feel the time loss then, because the amount you're able to take out of it is just less and less.
Yeah, we're watching kind of a spreading of the field as Frank Wynn's made the move on David Tuta for the 4th spot. He'll be looking to hunt down Andrew Taphorn for the bottom step of the podium now. That's kind of allowed Taphorn to have a bit more space at his disposal, and that's kind of the risk you run with overtaking in these big draft trains, is that if you break them up a little bit, that gives an opportunity for a car, say, leading the train to break away just a little bit, and before you know it, they could escape your window entirely.
But again, it's the draft window in these cars is pretty wide. Sorry, I had to sneeze there, Jacob. But yeah, the draft window in this car is pretty wide, as we'll see there. It doesn't appear that Frisky Frankie is streaking away from David Tuta. but also not necessarily letting Andrew Taphorn escape. The battle of the Canadians here for the final step of the podium. Frisky Frankie and Andrew Taphorn. I think Taphorn has a Molson paint on that machine.
Yeah, noticing a lot of action towards the bottom portion of the top 10 between the likes of Weston Yoshinobu, David Clennon, and Nathan Ray going back and forth. Yoshinobu has the spot in 10th. He currently leads it over Clennon and Ray as they're all just working the later stages of the top 10. And slowly but surely, Andre Castro's been chipping into the gap of this group ahead here. He's now within about a second and a half, maybe a second, depending on where you catch it on the track here. And it won't be too much longer if he keeps at the current pace that he'll reel on this group ahead of him.
Yeah, and I just want to highlight Rafael Lippi has been so dominant. He has already put Giovanni Blackerby a lap down. So Giovanni Blackerby obviously not having a good night after that incident with Ingy Kirchenbauer and Andre Castro. For Kirchenbauer, I'm sure this is a night to forget.
Yeah, not the result he was looking for. Looks like he's had difficulties in every race he's entered this evening. So we'll hopefully wish Indy some better luck as we get on to the ovals tomorrow night. Perhaps that's a good segue to kind of cap up the coverage we've got going into the rest of the week here. So this is it for the coverage of Monday night. Top split action here on the P1 Broadcasting Channel. We'll hop back to the battle for... Actually, hold on. We've got quite the battle for 3rd, 4th, and 5th as the cars are stacked on top of each other, and Andre Castro's ready to capitalize on any little mistake.
Right, as we see them going too wide here. Frisky Frankie manages to get on the inside here for this corner. It's going to have the inside for the square pin if he can get the run off the corner, but he can't. Castro takes a look on the inside of David Tuda. Oh, looks like they touch a little bit. Oh, they really touch. Oh, Castro loses a front wing. Castro has no front wing now. He goes way off the track as Tuta made a seemingly, maybe they had an issue there, but they really seem to kind of jank there. I don't know about you, Jacob.
Yeah, the cars maybe got glued together as it looked like the right rear tire entered the left rear tire of Castro, and ultimately Castro ends up off the worst for it. Perhaps just a little too greedy heading off into that square pin as he's not only lost the front wing, but the left side pod of that IL-15. Certainly not going to be conducive for the fastest lap times, especially as we get to kind of the very heavy braking zone at the end of the front stretch here.
Yeah, the Tuda also is missing half a side pod as well and has some other damage. The little section that goes over where the shocks and other suspension components are housed looks to be messed up there on the Gamebridge paint of David Tuda. Tuda sends it on the inside here of Castro. Castro doing a real good job with all the downforce loss here as Castro is all over the gearbox of the Guinness machine.
Yeah, Tuta looking for
and
anywhere.
While that is happening, Frisky Frankie is looking on Andrew Taphorn. Taphorn taking a very defensive line into turn number 4.
Yeah, this has kind of been where Frankie's been the fastest on the track, or at least had the best opportunities to overtake as we're working lap 10 of 14 here. Not too many more to go here. And we'll see if Andre Castro is able to hold on to that 5th spot ahead of David Tuta. Obviously, they're fighting for position, but then you've got the likes of Lucas Lodato just down the road. Those damaged cars maybe not going to be able to make as much time as they were before. That'll potentially put them under the grasp of even more cars behind them.
Tuta's in the wall! Tuta's in the wall! Sorry to interrupt there, Jacob. Tuta got loose through the S's and just snapped into the wall, nose first. Big damage to that Gamebridge machine.
Yeah, he kind of mounted the curb to the left and starts a very heavy slide. Just keeps going and going and going. And you're going to see him slide off into the inside wall nose first. And that's likely going to be night done for David Tuta. Tough break as he was running inside the top 5 from the drop of the green, and he's going to fall down the order with a meatball flag. Oh!
Yeah, I'm sure.
Henry Wang just hit the wall coming off the stadium section. He'll head down the pit lane as well.
Yeah, that is definitely suspension damage on the Los Pollos Hermanos machine. That left front upright, not up to Los Pollos Hermanos standards right now. Oh, Nathan Ray's in the wall! Nathan Ray! Oh. It's all happening now, Jacob, as the race is kind of coming to an end here.
Yeah, Ray mounts the curb on the inside going into turn number 1 here. He's managed to get it settled from there. He'll start to navigate towards the chicane. Oh, he's got, I believe that's the 16 of Weston Yoshinobu. They're going to make contact off the corner there. Yoshinobu just gets a bit of a slide there. Looks like they stay undamaged so far. Ray's going to work his way off there and seemingly just end up going around all on his own. Very odd course of events as he'll make contact with the outside wall on the left there, go for a big spin. Likely not going to be good for him as he'll opt to tow the car, and that'll be night done for Nathan Ray.
Yeah, and I just want to issue a small correction. Andrew Taphorn, not a Molson paint, a Labatt Blue paint. I am sure Canadians were throwing their Timbits at me over that.
Yes, Taphorn carries a different, one of the many alcohol-sponsored IL-15s we've seen over the course of the running of these series. Obviously, we've got Andre Castro in that Guinness livery that he's been sporting, Taphorn in the LeBalt. Frank Wynn, he's holding on in the 4th spot. He's been looking lap after lap to try to find a way around Andrew Taphorn. We obviously know many would love to see Frisky Frankie up on the podium here in Indy NXT competition, ourselves included. Obviously, we don't want to show too much bias, but obviously a very, very popular figure in the community. Would be good to see him work his way up onto the podium. But Raphael Lippi, let's go back to him for a second. I think this is the biggest lead we've seen in a top split road race in series history. 11 and some odd seconds. That would put it, actually it'd put it right up in contention with the margin of victory from week number 2 at Okayama. So we'll see if Lippi can beat out the current standing record of 11.647 in terms of margin of victory here tonight.
Yeah, an absolute dominant display from Raphael on tonight. Obviously, Jared Corey chose to sit this race out, so new winner so far, knock on wood, here in the Indy NXT Series.
Yes, we have summoned one Caleb Brashear with the beer comments, so good to see Caleb in the audience tonight. We'll thank everybody for tuning in, and let's, while we've got this battle for third.
Up a little in the
Go ahead,
Go
Sophie.
on, Jacob. I was going to say, Taphorn locked up a little bit into turn number 1 there. He's taking a defensive line into 4. When not there, Frisky Frankie, though, all over the gearbox through those opening sectors. It seems to be in the stadium section that Taphorn is a little bit quicker.
Yeah, it seems to be the biggest portion that he's been able to stretch his legs on, as we'll see him do a little bit of that here heading towards the S's. But nonetheless, Frankie's been able to hold his own through the opening section of the track. It's kind of the last couple of corners where Taphorn really gets to show what he's made of, as they're going to get pretty close together through the S's here. Bit of a bobble there from Frankie as they head towards the stadium now. We'll see if Frankie can gather it up and maybe have just enough to make a run down to turn number 1.
Yeah, Frankie is really pushing it there, getting up a little bit on that curve. See here, Taphorn opens up about a 6/10 of a second gap as they now come to the Peraltada. Taphorn getting a better run through the Peraltada there, but now Frisky Frankie gonna have the draft down that long front straightaway, but it really doesn't seem to make as much of a difference here because of that thinner air. Frisky Frankie really only pulling out just that little bit to bring the gap within half a second.
Yeah,
but
we haven't
really committing well on the brakes.
Yeah.
That kills his run out of 3.
Yeah, we haven't quite talked about the push-to-pass situation yet. Taphorn just ran out. Frisky Frankie's got 7 seconds left, as do Barrero Ruiz ahead of him. Lippi's sitting on 31. Rest of the field's basically already empty on the push-to-pass until you get down to the likes of David Clennon, who's got a big bank of about 40-some-odd in his IL-15 still. But I think Taphorn's just going to have to ride it on home here as we watch him navigate the S section. And let's hop back up to Raphael Lippi at the front of the field here. He works his way through the stadium section for the final time. 14 of 14. He's led every one of them, and he'll work his way off the final corner through the Peraltada, navigate towards the start-finish line with gusto, and win here from Mexico City.
Yeah, with the wiggle of the steering wheel, Rafael Lippi crosses the line about 12 seconds ahead of Rafael Ruiz, who will come across in that Haviland Newman Haas machine.
Frankie kept Andrew honest. He'll be about half second adrift of the third spot. You'll have the likes of Lucas Lodato crossing the line, holding off Chris Wetz.
Andre Castro comes home in 7th after being in the wars several times tonight, seemingly through very little fault of his own.
Yeah, a bit of netcode glue, particularly in the second incident, seemed to ultimately do him in his charge back to the podium tonight. And that will do it for all but one lead lap car. We've got David Clennon working off the final corner. There he is. He'll navigate off the final corner, and that'll do it for all our lead lap finishers tonight. And we'll run you through the complete finishing results here from Mexico City as we finish off tonight's main event. And it will be Rafael Lippi with his first win in Indy NXT Road Series competition. He'll beat out Hamilton Barrera Ruiz by 13.598 seconds to set a new series record for the biggest margin of victory. Andrew Taphorn will finish 3rd. Frank Wynn kept him honest, about a half second adrift in 4th. Lucas Lodato will round out the top 5. Chris Wetz, Andre Castro, Mike Acaro, Weston Yoshinobu, and Robert Kempfis will round out the top 10. Colin Hill, David Clennon, last of the lead lap. Giovanni Blackerby, we saw him up on his lid, the podium finisher from Fuji, ultimately not going to back that up here in Mexico City. David Tuta will finish 14th in the 14. Nathan Ray, we saw his difficulties throughout this race. He'll wind up 15th. Henry Wang will be 16th. Eduardo Galbinski in trouble early, as was Indy Kirchenbauer. And that'll do it for the 18-car field here from Mexico City. And we'll see who we get in the interview room tonight to talk about the very interesting race we had here from Mexico City.
Yeah, Rafael Lippi obviously very excited to have this win. The largest margin of victory this season thus far, Jacob. Obviously a very excited, action-packed race. Obviously with the opening lap, the contact between Kasper and Galbinski, and then the contact between Kirchenbauer, Castro, and Blackerby.
Yeah, very, very tricky opening lap, and it looks like we've got Rafael waiting for us. We'll see if we can get his car up on the screen, and we'll work our way downwards on the podium to try to get everybody in as fast as we reasonably can here. See if we can track down a IL-15 for the likes of Rafael Lippi. There he is. We'll give him plenty of time to speak his mind on a very dominant race from him. Get him on up here. Rafael Lippi, Jacob Collins, Sophie Connell, P1 Broadcasting. You got us?
You are on mute, Rafael, if you're speaking.
Hi, good night.
Hello. Well, I think this is your first win here up on the broadcast for the Indy NXT Road Series. Obviously, we saw you last week, I believe, from Fuji, or at least a couple weeks ago, rather. But talk us through your race. You kind of avoided all the chaos that ensued on the opening lap here tonight, but walk us through maybe some of the things you learned out here in Mexico tonight.
Hi, Jacob. Yeah, that was a really nice start from me. Actually, my first race here was in Road Atlanta. I got a really nice fight for the P4. In the range was every lap fighting with Andre Castro. Really nice high level guys. I couldn't race in Fuji, but yeah, Mexico is a track I like a lot. I raced GT2 here yesterday. It's a lot of fun. I like how you actually have to choose the curbs to take advantage. It's a bit risky. It's dangerous. You can feel the punch in the wheelbase, but it's really rewarding. And I'm looking forward to the next one. Yeah, I got luck there with the inset in the first lap, and after that, I just had to keep and keep pushing. But and that's it. I want to thank my team, my Brazilian team, Bravo Snow. You can follow them on Instagram, Facebook, Bravo Snow. This or the sponsors done design that do the paints. Philip Giro, video editor, Lucas Mundo TV. Uh, and I want to thank you, Lion GP. They 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 are another team that sponsors. And yes, let's go for the next one. Really nice racing with you guys. Thanks a lot from Brazil.
Well, thank you for joining us, Raphael. We'll hopefully catch you next week as we take on the Adelaide Street Course. Otherwise, we'll hopefully catch you sometime next season as the Indy NXT Series progresses throughout the rest of the year. All right. And that'll do it for Raphael. He's got this nailed down. Good to see him up on the podium from Brazil. I believe that actually might be the first winner from Brazil we've had in a good while here. So we'll run through the rest of the podium. You got Hamilton Barrera Ruiz in that Texaco Haviland machine. He finishes second. He's currently sitting second in the points. This will likely be a decent points effort for him. Decent strength of field, some 3,400 from Mexico City here tonight. Andrew Taphorn will round out that podium in the LeBalt scheme. He's got Canadian flags on it. He's doing Canada proud. Very diverse podium. I think we've got maybe 3 countries. I don't know. I think Barrera Ruiz is flagged as from Colombia, so that
Colombian.
Yeah, there we go. We got quite ourselves a diverse lineup of drivers here at Indy NXT competition, and you too could be one of them here on the top split here on P1 Broadcasting. We'll be back next week with this series season finale from the Adelaide Street Course, which will present its own very unique and interesting challenges, as that's a relatively new, actually it's a brand new track this season, and it's a very, very difficult one at that, particularly in these open wheel machines. We'll be back tomorrow night with the Oval Series from Richmond in their penultimate round, gearing up to round out their season. We've got the IndyCar Oval Fix Series tomorrow night. That'll take place at Michigan, 7:15 Eastern Time. Indy NXT Oval Series competition from Richmond will be at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Rounding out tomorrow night's coverage will be 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Mark Murphy's coverage of the Area 51 IndyCar Series from the Nashville Super Speedway. Wednesday night, me and Sophie are back for the Formula Super Series round number 3 from the Motegi Mobility Resort. Mobility Resort Motegi East. Try saying that 5 times fast. 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time with potential for rain, I have been told, so that'll be certainly an interesting race. And Mark Murphy will be calling Horizon IndyCar Series action from the Motegi Oval, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We've got Grand National Series action from the AMA Thursday night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time from the Kodo NASCAR West Course, alongside with their Truck Series Friday night, 8:20 p.m. Eastern Time. Caleb Brashear will be back in the booth for those. And then Saturday, the IndyCar iRacing Series season opener will be 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And we want to thank everybody for tuning in to all of our coverage alongside the Classic IndyCar Series from Montreal at 2 p.m. on Sunday, alongside the Dark Horse DW12 Series at 8 p.m. Sunday from Iowa. And we'll roll back to the start of next week for the final week of Season 1 of 2026 as we crown champions in our official series of competition here on P1. Sophie, final thoughts from Mexico City.
What a chaotic race this was, but ultimately it was Rafael Lippi who rose above the chaos, and Hamilton Barrera Ruiz and Andrew Taphorn managed to benefit from a lot of those opening lap chaos with the likes of Galbinski, Castro, Kirchenbauer, and Blackerby suffering their misfortunes. What an excellent event, Jacob, and I can't wait for the season finale on the streets of Adelaide.
Certainly going to be an iconic venue, not unfamiliar to hosting open wheel season finales. So we'll see if we can kind of add to the annals of history, if you will, with another one in the virtual world, with the Indy NXT Road Series from Adelaide to round out our first season of 2026. Well, thank everybody for tuning in to tonight's coverage of the Indy NXT Road Series here from Mexico City. We'll catch you either throughout the week with our slew of other coverages we already outlined, or we'll catch you next time out here as we take on those streets in Adelaide. We'll also thank those that do all the very difficult jobs all around the world to let us bring you fun things like Indy NXT Road Series action here on P1 Broadcasting. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night, and we will catch you next time.